Good evening, friends. I'm kind of laughing already. I've messed up so many times and started over. I mean, how many people that have a channel admit that? I don't know. But, hey, it's the truth. I've messed up. But I'm coming back tonight, reading Truly's Travels, and starting with chapter 8 tonight. I hope to do two um, chapters, I'm not sure, but chapter 8, bickering among families, and chapter 9, maybe working together. We'll see how it goes. I should be able to. Um, I really love these. Of course, I love these stories, but um, this one just really touches me because of the encouragement that's in it to for people to get along. We're working together as Christians. We're on our way to heaven, and hopefully encouraging and lifting each other up as we go. And this is about that, getting along when things get tough and things get hard. And so let's start with chapter 8. Each day was happy and busy. Truly enjoyed the new families, especially Caring. Caring was 12, and they spent more time together. Oh, I'm sorry. And as they spent more time together, she and Truly felt that they could have been sisters. Purely was much older and spent more of her time with the adults. Fearful was 10 and very shy. They tried to include her in everything they did, but sometimes Fearful just went off to be by herself. Truly and Caring did not know it, but Fearful was afraid to get close to people. She wanted so much to have close friends, but she was afraid. Bravely also found a great friend in Courage. They seemed to be interested in all the same things and had much to talk about. Daring was a little older, but they enjoyed talking to him too. Courage was also concerned about Daring, as Truly was. Courage felt that he seemed to take chances, and way too many of them. As time went by, the Steadfast family and the Found family spent more and more time together. They enjoyed being together and sharing what they had learned together. Unfortunately, the Weak Faith family began to be hurt by this. They felt left out and became jealous. Purely noticed it and spoke to the other families in hopes of bridging the gap. However, it proved to be quite a challenge. Mr. and Mrs. Found were not willing to reach out to the Weak Faith family. They wanted things to stay as they were. They enjoyed having the Steadfast family all to themselves. Also, they felt that if Mr. and Mrs. Weak Faith wanted to have close friends, they should make more of an effort. Purely prayed for God to work out the problems, but for now, it seemed that more hurt feelings were in store for the families. The girls were about to learn that sometimes our prayers are not answered right away. Truly and Caring stayed up late one evening talking and enjoying each other's company. They could hear Mr. and Mrs. Steadfast talking. They were upset that Truly's dad was unwilling to help the Weak Faith family feel more like a part of the group. As the situation got worse, the families became upset and confused. They wondered why this was happening. They agreed to pray and let the King of Kings take care of everyone. One morning, the group came upon a beautiful large lake. The family stopped at the water's edge. Mr. Shepherd asked them all to gather around close. He had some instructions for them. We must go to the other side of the lake, he told them. There are boats here, one for each of your families and one for me. I will be going now, but you must leave in the morning. I will be preparing our lodging on the other side. Try to leave first thing in the morning and remember to head straight across the lake. Don't go to the sides of the lake as there are rocks that will damage your boats. As soon as you get to the other side, you will see the path. Put your boats there put your boats there. One other important thing I want to mention to you. Try to stay fairly close to one another during your voyage across the lake. It will take all day, and you may need each other. He prayed with them, and then he was on his way. The families watched him go. They began to get ready to eat and then rest for the morrow. By now, the families were so frustrated with one another that they had their devotions separately. The children were saddened by this. Truly prayed for the rift to be healed as she fell asleep that night. So that's the end of chapter 8, and now chapter 9, working together. The next morning, all the children awoke with excitement. They were looking forward to the trip across the lake. After family devotions and something to eat, the families began to load into the boats. Daring was very excited to go and persuaded his family to leave before the others. Truly and the others called out to them to wait, but they were already too far out and could not hear them calling. The Found family and the Steadfast family headed out together as Mr. Shepherd had instructed them. It was a beautiful day. There was just the slightest breeze, and the lake was one of the most beautiful lakes Truly had ever seen. She thought what a nice trip it was going to be, and it was very pleasant for several hours. The Weak Faith family was far ahead of them now, and a little off course from the direction that Mr. Shepherd had given them. Truly wondered that Daring was not getting very tired, since these were rowboats, and he must be rowing as fast as he could for them to be so far ahead. As she looked around in the little boat, she noticed 2 thick boards with bolts attached to each end. She wondered what these were for. When another hour or so went by, it looked to Truly as if they were in the middle of the lake. It was beginning to cloud over, and the sky looked stormy. Mom and Dad started looking for something to protect them from the rain, but they didn't find anything. Dad and Bravely noticed that it was getting a little harder to stay close to the other boat. Then Truly saw it was because the wind had come up and the waves were starting to affect the boats. Truly could see now that this was going to be a storm. She felt a few drops of rain, which turned into lots of rain. The wind was blowing the rain. The boats were bouncing around now because of the wind. There was also thunder and lightning with this storm. It seemed it was right on top of them. The men were working extremely hard now to keep the boats from flipping over in the waves. Also, they were trying to keep the boats as close as possible to each other without crashing into each other. The Found family was concerned. Mom said, "Dad, what are we going to do? Are we going to make it through this storm?" Dad said, "I'm not sure what to do." Water was starting to come into the boat. The other families were struggling in the same way. The little boats were being tossed around, and the Pilgrims were worried that the storm was going to destroy their boats. Truly began to pray for deliverance. Bravely started shouting at everyone to listen. He thought he could hear Mr. Steadfast saying something to them. They all listened as best they could in the storm. Mr. Steadfast was saying that he found the thick boards in his boat and thought they were for connecting the boats together in times like this. If they worked together, they could attach the boards to the boats and provide some stability for the boats. So they all worked together to attach the boards at the right spots on the boats. They started at the front of the boats. That proved to be the hardest one to attach because of the storm. As soon as they got the boards lined up and ready to connect, the waves would bounce the boats and they would have to start all over again. Finally, the front board was in place. Then the second one was much easier. Almost at once, the families could tell a difference. The boards provided the support they needed. They were still riding waves, but they were doing it together, and as they did so, each bounce seemed easier. Now that they were closer, they could talk to each other, and they all felt encouraged. Truly began to hope that they would make it to the shore. She tried to see Mr. and Mrs. Weakface's boat, but she could not see it because of the storm. Another half of an hour went by, and then the storm began to die down. They were all soaked, but were thankful to be alive. As the storm calmed, the two families noticed that they could not see the other boat at all. The boat may have capsized in the storm. Dad saw the path on the other side, so the men rowed as fast as they could so they could look for the other boat. Once they were ashore, they wanted to talk things over and apologize for all the bickering. But that would have to wait until the Weakface family was found safe. Mr. Shepherd was there now and helped them search along the shoreline. The boat had indeed capsized, and the family was swimming to shore. The other families helped them get ashore and then to the lodging that Mr. Shepherd had prepared for them. They were all alive and safe. However, as the night wore on, Daring and Fearful became feverish. The other families prayed for the Weakface family and for the two children. Dad said to all there, "Please forgive me for being so heartless. I truly do care about every one of you, my friends. And I have certainly learned a lesson this day. I found out today just how much we need each other. Also, just like we helped each other with the boats, we need to help each other on this journey. I hope you all will forgive me. I will work harder to help lighten your load." Romans 12:10-21. "Of course we forgive you," said Mr. Weakface. "I have learned lessons today as well. I am very thankful for all of you." There was lots of love and forgiveness going around that night. It was a great feeling. The book says how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity, said Mr. Shepherd. I would say that we found out just how true that is today. Psalms 133:1. And that's the end of chapter 9. And so next time is Daring the Hero. So I'm looking